So before we get into today's episode, just want to tell you about the Alcohol-Free Revolution community. So we started this back in November and it's just been fantastic. It's a group of people getting together midday every Monday on a Zoom call and just celebrating an alcohol-free lifestyle. It's not AA, it's a community of people who are all moving in the same direction and just celebrating what it's like to be alcohol-free. We've also got people in there as well who are sober curious. So it's about generating motivation and, trying to get people off the fence about, should I take a break? Should I not? Come join us. It's completely free. Meet some other people that are doing it. And it's just a really great positive experience. If you want to get involved, you just need to drop us an email with the word community to info@thealcoholfreerevolution.co.uk. If you need to get that address again, it's in the show notes.
If you enjoy the pod, and this is really important, if you enjoy the pod, please like and subscribe. It really helps to shift us up the ratings, reach more people and impact more lives. That is our mission for our second year, as we are now moving into our second year of the pod. Our mission is to get up those ratings. So if you haven't done it yet, jump on, like and subscribe and follow the pod, and that will make a huge difference and help us to get bigger, better guests in the future.
Please help us. Now, on with the show. Welcome back to the Alcohol-Free Revolution podcast. My name's James Lloyd.
And my name is Steve Smith.
And you've got some big news today, haven't you, Steve?
I have. We are recording today on June the 27th, which is my 5th year alcohol-free.
Oh, hallelujah.
Oh,
Congratulations, my friend.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly. You can hear the trumpets playing in the background and the massive fanfares. And it's incredible. I'm genuinely can't believe it. It feels a little bit surreal, really. Parts of it feel like it's been a long time. And other times I just think that's flown by. But what a 5 years. What a ride. It's been amazing.
Brilliant.
Absolutely made up over it. Made up. So
congratulations.
Celebrate with might actually crack an AF beer as we're talking.
Oh, yeah. I've got one right here.
There you go. Absolutely.
We're recording in the afternoon rather than the morning, actually. And it's, without doing too much weather chat, it's horrendously hot. So I'm literally sat here with an ice cold Estrella. But congratulations, mate. It's absolutely fantastic. Regular listeners to the show will know that we've been building up to it for several weeks now. But the day's
absolutely.
finally here.
It is finally here. Finally here. Celebrating with 34 degrees of heat. And I'm going to go and jump in the lake. How's your week been?
Well, this morning I appeared on a podcast that I know you've been on. So with it's the Clean Break podcast, which is with our good friends Rich Casement and Andy Delderfield. Your fraternity, the Crazy Runners.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I recorded an episode with them this morning. That's out, I think, in about 2 weeks. I don't know if you wanted me to do a plug for another podcast.
If you were going to do a plug for any other podcast, we're more than willing to help out the guys at Clean Break. Great podcast. Give it a listen.
Oh, it was great. Honestly, we had such a great conversation. It felt like all the conversations we have, but compacted into an hour and a half. So
and done professionally.
No, they're no better than we are.
Oh, no.
It's great. Really nice guys, and it's. I felt it was a little bit overdue. I mean, you were on them like months and months ago, and they were on our pod months and months ago. So it was good to catch up and get on there. So
amazing, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, cool.
So been doing that and trying to keep my dogs from dehydrating in this heat. Oh shit, we're not supposed to be doing any weather chat, are we?
Well, there you go. But you do have an air conditioning unit in your room, which is I'm very jealous of.
It does.
All I've seen is people walking out of supermarkets this week with fans under their arms. Everywhere I look, that's all they're doing. Yeah. But
I'm scared to death to see what my electricity bill is going to be like next month. It's going to be absolutely through. We've got fans going everywhere, air conditioner going. Oh God, it's going to be like the middle of winter in terms of the cost. So
absolutely.
But yeah, so what are you drinking at the moment anyway? What are you going to celebrate your 5th anniversary with? What's going to be your tipple?
I am going to have, well, actually, similarly to you, I've got an Estrella Zero on the go. Well, will be on the go very shortly, which is also, at the moment, that's my beer of choice. I love it. And actually, here's the thing. I still have my Booker's card from my last job. So you're going to like this. I picked up a crate of 24 Estrella from Booker's the other day for £13. Going to love that. So, absolutely great. So I've got a few of those in the fridge. I've got a bit of Mother Root, maybe a bit later. Yeah, just having a bit of a celebration, but more so going to go and cool off in my local lake and go and have a swim.
I've got a client actually I'm working with at the moment who's broken down the recipe for Mother Root and made her own at a cost of £2.50, and she said it's absolutely amazing. I mean, it's certainly a good saving on 30 quid for a bottle if you're
Yeah.
tight like I am.
Yeah. Well, or if you're hopefully not hoping for Mother Root to come and sponsor the pod, but I think we've just blown every possibility clean out the window with that one. But
Well,
it's a great tip. I enjoy it. But yeah, I've been making my own ginger shots for a while. They're great. So yeah,
mm.
all good, all good. Looking forward to a celebration.
Might see if we can get someone from Estrella on the pod since everyone's
Yeah,
been. Honestly, I don't know. Everyone I've mentioned Estrella to, they're like, "Oh my god, it's the best alcohol-free beer," and it
yeah,
really is. I mean,
yeah.
and it's always on
It's a,
sale as well. So I'm just
yeah,
whenever I see it on sale, I just buy more.
absolutely,
It's like
absolutely.
Bitcoin, which is crashing at the moment. No Bitcoin chat.
So putting that to one side, what do you want to talk about this week?
Well, I thought we break down for people who are still sober curious, still sitting on the fence. You know how to get through that first week, how to get through that first month. Because I think when you're thinking about taking a break from alcohol, and obviously we both hear from people day in day out who are thinking about it but not taking any action. I think it's a bit over. Sometimes it's a bit daunting and a bit overwhelming with what do I do first? And it's really not that hard once you've got a bit of a structure and a bit of a strategy. So I thought we'd break down what does week one look like and what does month one look like.
Yeah, totally. Let's go for it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you think about you're right. It is that thinking about it, isn't it? It's getting out the starting blocks. And I think the most important thing is if it's on your mind, is just to get it done, just to get started as quick as you
Yeah.
possibly can. And there's no better time to start right now because ultimately you're always going to be looking to your diary to see what's coming up. I think you mentioned a little while ago, realistically, if you're going on holiday tomorrow, it might not be the very best thing to do. But if it's a couple of weeks away or it's a month away, then there's no better
Mm,
time to start because ultimately once you've got that under your belt, I guarantee things will start to look brighter and better that way. But it is just to take that start. It's just to take that first step.
mm.
And for me, if I could give one kind of piece of advice, it's just to approach everything with just curiosity,
Oh yeah.
just complete and utter curiosity about what is going on for you rather than, oh God, I've got to do this. Oh God, I've got to,
Mm.
immediately start to look at why you're doing it, look back to your why and approach everything with curiosity, but be prepared for what happens when those kind of triggers and those kind of moments come along and how to navigate them. And we can kind of talk a little bit about that. Happy to kind of run through that a little bit.
Before we get into that, I'm actually going to take it back one step, and that's that if you're thinking about it, that thought is not going to go away until you do
Yeah,
something about
exactly.
it. Because here's the thing, right? If you're most of the people that we work with, and I think making a guess, most of the listeners to this show are probably in midlife. They're probably in their 40s or their 50s. And the reality is, if you're starting to have thoughts about alcohol not being your friend anymore, which we've all had, it's just not going to go away. You're not going to be able to ride that out. It's not like you're going to, okay, I'll just get on with it. I'll just carry on putting it off for several years, and then one morning you're going to wake up and think, "Oh, great, I've solved it. I'm just going to crack
Yeah,
on
exactly.
drinking." Just
Exactly.
that's not going to happen. So you might as well just get on and bite the bullet and try it. Try that break, and see what happens. And then if you don't like having a few weeks off the booze, great, booze is still there. But
It's not going
but
anywhere.
why would you just delay and delay and delay and delay and delay and delay? Just do it. If you've got that feeling, just do it. Get out of the way because as we've both said many times before, the biggest regret is not doing it sooner.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
But
everyone
also
says
we've
that.
yeah, and we've also both said before that actually we wouldn't have not ever not drunk. But yeah, equally going back to what you're saying, it's like whilst we say we would have done it sooner, I certainly, and I know you say the same, would never go back to a stage where we wouldn't have drunk. But
Mm,
the the thought came in my head about 41. I was about 41, I would say, when I first, and it never, you're right, it never went away.
mm,
It never went away. It was always there in the background. And it was never a case of, oh, I need to stop drinking. I need to take a break from alcohol. It was just, this is not right. This isn't, this doesn't feel the same. Maybe, or maybe even a thought of where is this going to go? Where is this going if I carry on drinking like this? Maybe that kind of worry or whatever it happens to be, but that was always there and it never went away. And it wouldn't have gone away had I not taken action on it.
no,
You're right.
no, completely
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a bit of a theory on why people procrastinate in that way, and I've mentioned it several times recently because I've been thinking about it an awful lot. And it's because what we perceive everybody else is doing is having a lovely time with alcohol, and we sort of think, oh right, it's just us, and it just isn't just you. It isn't just you at all. There's so many people in midlife are questioning alcohol, but we just do not see that because people do not voice it enough. hardly at all. And
Mm,
then you've got all of the marketing and all of the social influence that's telling you the complete opposite.
mm.
That that it's you. You're the only one who's having these thoughts. But it's just not true. It's the biggest myth, that you're going to be missing out on the fun and it's just you. I just think maybe we're in a bit of a bubble because we're talking to people, day in, day out in the, in midlife about changing their relationship with alcohol. So perhaps we're a bit overexposed to those people. But everyone says the same thing. I'm 40, I'm 45. It's just not like it was, like it used to
Mm,
be. You're thinking
mm,
about making a change, and you just hear
mm.
it over and over and over and over again. And it just makes me think, you want to get all those people together and say, look, you're all having the same thoughts.
Yeah,
It's not just you. It's not
yeah.
just you. You're the same as I was. You're the same as Steve was. And we don't want to be the odd one out. We don't want to be the outlier, do we? And I think,
Which we think we will be,
yeah, yeah,
but
it's
it's
just not
just not
true.
true. It's
No,
just completely not true. And yeah, I mean, you're right. In conversations with people that either work with or that are considering working, it's the same conversation every single time.
yeah, yeah.
It's
This
the
is why the
exact same
community
approach.
piece, this is why the Alcohol Free Revolution community is so powerful because,
Yeah.
and we've seen this with people when they just first join the call, everyone's a little bit apprehensive at first, but when they join the call and they realize that there are other people who are just in the same place, and it's just all these Me Too moments where people are just like, oh yeah, that's the same for me, and
Mm,
people just light up
mm,
and they animate,
mm.
and it's the same when we met,
Yeah.
when we were training with to be coaches and things, and when you connect with other people and you realize that it's not just me, there's so many other people that are doing this. I'm not a bit weird or a bit abnormal. I'm like everyone else, and meeting people that totally get where you're coming from is just so powerful. I think
Yeah, I would
that's
agree.
why we're
I would
doing
agree.
this
Exactly.
ultimately.
Exactly that. Exactly that. So you make the
Week one.
decision, week one. I think it's probably worth us saying what kind of goes on in terms of physically when you stop drinking in that first week
Mm,
and what you can kind of expect. And ultimately, in terms of, certainly with all the people we work with, your actual the length of time that alcohol stays in your system is relatively short.
yeah,
Once that starts to dissipate and move, then there will it's depending on the levels you're drinking, you're probably going to feel a little bit sluggish maybe in the first few days. You might come down with a bit of a cold. You might things might change because your body's ultimately going through changes and it's
mm,
adapting. Certainly if you were drinking on a pretty regular basis, which I know you were and I was. So it's not necessarily an instant
yeah,
you feel fantastic in day two.
yeah,
That's not necessarily going to be the case, and we kind of know that. But fairly quickly, you're going to start to see some benefits, certainly within sort of
mm,
a week to 10 days.
yeah,
And
definitely,
and once you've gone past that stage of actually ridding your body of the alcohol that's in it, everything is here. Everything's in your head,
totally, yeah,
and
totally,
that's what that's the battle. And it's
yeah,
understanding what's going on in that moment. It's understanding why we feel the way we are, that we think we're craving a beer, we think we're craving a glass of wine, we think we're craving that, and we're not. We're craving a change in our mindset, or change in our brain state, or a change in our
emotional
moods, or
state. Yeah,
whatever it happens to be, our emotional state. That's what we're craving. And once we start to understand what's going on with that, that's when we can start to make the real changes.
yeah, no, spot on. I think when I say to people, alcohol's only stays in your system for less than a week. 95% of people who listen to this show, alcohol will stay in your system for less than a week. It's only if you're really drinking hazardous amounts that it's more than that. So you're completely right. After that first week, there's no physical withdrawal whatsoever. It is
Yeah,
entirely in your head. It's
yeah,
all about the stories that we tell ourselves and the beliefs that we have.
yeah,
Entirely.
yeah.
Yeah, this is why I have this belief that stopping drinking is made to be overly complicated. I just don't think I just all this stuff about alcohol being a disease and all that. I just do not agree with that. I just don't think that's true.
Mm,
We won't dig into the whole thing with AA and stuff, but I just think it's really straightforward. You get people through the first week, and we'll break down in a second. Some tips of how you can make that first week more digestible. But then after that, it's all about analyzing, you know, how you think and your behavior and your habits, looking at your habit loops, looking at the triggers, reworking your schedule so that perhaps that you're if you're somebody, for example, who comes in and has a beer at 5 o'clock to relax after work, then perhaps you mix that schedule up a little bit at the beginning and you do something a little bit different, and perhaps you get alcohol free alternatives in. But there's so many ways that you can do that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
But in terms of that first week, what are the kind of the main things that that you'd recommend people do in that first week?
I think you're right with that. I think it's really important to have a plan, and I think it's
Yes,
really
absolutely.
important to, you know, we. I'm obviously at the moment the people I'm coaching, we're talking about things like, oh, it's hot. It's so I fancy a beer because it's hot, but then well, I fancy a beer because it's the World Cup, or I fancy a beer. The fact of the matter is, there will always be something. There will
Yeah.
always be something that is a trigger. What do we do if we have a crap day at work? We want a beer to relax. What do we do if we have a great day at work? We go out for a beer after work with people at work because we want to celebrate the fact we've had a great day at work. It's in everything we do. So we have to understand that that association will always be there. But it's really, I think it's the important thing is to understand what it is that alcohol is giving you, what it is that I deal with people that are social drinkers, people that drink at home to fill boredom, people that, so understanding what you're getting in that moment, and then looking at when those pinpoint pressures are, those pressure point moments are, and being able to look at those moments and look at the habit loops that come into play and look at ways of distracting or using techniques and tools to deal with those cravings in the initial stages that actually can slow things right down, get our brains focusing in the way that they should do, and actually ride out those cravings, because in the initial days you're going to have those cravings, but they typically only last 10 to 15 minutes, and they come like waves, and you will start to work your way out of them, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. The whole mindset piece there is so important because you're right. I think when you're first going into it in that first week, or even before that first week, and you're thinking, this is going to be so hard. This is going to be really difficult, and it is quite hard at the beginning. But every single day that goes by, it just gets easier and easier and easier because you're building momentum on one side and you're getting further away from the habit that you previously had, and you spoke about the kind of the analogy of making a new path through the
Hmm.
grass and things. But it's the first couple of weeks can be a bit messy. You've just got to just change your schedule up. you know if you have a very structured life in terms of what you do and where your drinking normally is, just mix it up. Most people have like a witching hour, which is commonly between kind of 5 and 8, I think, where
Mm.
most people do their drinking. You've only really got to focus on, okay, what am I going to do in that witching hour? Maybe you go food shopping, then maybe you go for a walk, maybe you go for a run, maybe you take a bath. You just do something different for the first few weeks to break up the existing cycle. It doesn't have to be forever. So that's, I think, practical advice that people can really implement. The other thing, which I know we both do at the very beginning, is make the biggest list that you possibly can of all of the benefits that you're going to get from stopping drinking. And realistically, you should be able to list at least 30 things. If you do this properly and you really think about it, and this could be more energy, more healthier hair, more healthy nails, more
More money.
more money, more present with your kids and family, better nutrition, better sleep. Yeah, the list goes on and on and on and on. But if you really, really think about it, you can come up with a pretty hefty list. And when you look at that, you think, bloody hell, wow, that is pretty incredible. And they are all huge pillar of life things. They are the biggest things in your life. It's your health, it's your sleep, it's your fitness, all of this stuff. And when you start getting those cravings that, like you can rightly say, only last about 15 minutes, you go back to that list and you focus on, okay, this is why I'm doing it. This is the big prize that is at the end of this for me. And I think having that as we talk about it as being your why, or your North Star, the reason why you're doing it. Because when you get cravings, all they are is your like you say, your brain running that habit loop. It knows what it does in a certain situation when it feels under stress. And being under stress, what that manifests as in that first week is you're in withdrawal from the previous drinks that you had. And again, keeping in mind that alcohol only stays in your system for a week, you're going to have a physical withdrawal from the previous drink that you had. And your brain knows how to relieve the stress that you're under from that withdrawal, and it's to go and have another drink.
Hmm.
But you have to take a step back, look at it in your conscious mind, and go, okay, I recognize what is happening here. And the only way I'm going to break this loop is not to have that drink and ride out that feeling that's a bit uncomfortable, but also know that it's only going to last a week because that's how
Yeah.
long the withdrawal lasts. So
Yeah.
when you have that knowledge, it just gives you a different perspective. But this is why I think people, and us included, failed have failed so many failed attempts at breaks because they don't recognize what's actually happening in terms of the brain, that what cravings are and what's driving them, and it's withdrawal.
Hmm. And when we don't understand what craving is, when we don't understand what's driving it, and when we, it can be it's horrible. It's a really
Mm.
uncomfortable feeling. And the more and more we sit with that and realize and feel that it's an uncomfortable feeling, we don't know what the answer is, and we play that story in our head, then sooner or later the response is do what I've always done that's going to make it go away, and that is to
Mm.
grab a beer.
Yeah.
Once you understand, once you realize that actually, what is craving in that moment is probably relaxation, probably unwind, probably possibly fun, all of
Mm.
those things. But when we actually look back to realize that our brains don't actually like being falsely relaxed, they're perfectly capable of doing it on their own.
That's cool. So what else would you recommend people do in week one?
Going from my kind of lived experience, the biggest shift for me was just learning,
Yeah,
reading,
big time.
picking up books, or audiobooks. I'm not a big reader. I love to sit down and read a book, but it's just for me with kids and busy lives, just chucking on a podcast or chucking on an audiobook and listening to it while I'm walking the dog or whatever it happened to be. Then I literally surrounded myself with podcasts. And that's, there are many out there, none as good as this, of course, apart from,
Hell no.
no, exactly. But I surrounded myself with that, and I would literally binge listen to and
Yeah.
gain as
You got to
much
feed it. You've
information
got to
and
really
really
feed it.
understand what's going on. Because the more and more you feed and understand exactly what's going on in your head, you realize
Yeah.
that actually I'm not broken. It's not me. It's what's going on in my brain. It's what's going on. It's what alcohol does to my brain. And it makes me understand that once I can understand that fully, it's an absolute game changer. Yeah, just binge on books
We've done
and
an entire episode if anyone wants to go back and check, which are
yeah.
the books that we read, during, well, many years actually, before we went alcohol free and afterwards. We must have listed about 40 books. That's episode 39. It's the one after the Catherine Gray episode, because obviously we can't do a single podcast without referencing Catherine Gray. So yeah, that's episode 39. There's some, I won't go into them all now, but there's so many things there
Mm.
to check out. So yeah, you're right. In terms of podcast, I actually can't think of many apart from the Big Drink Rethink. Actually, I mean, I think that there are quite a lot of sober podcasts out there. I don't really listen to them, to be quite honest. I really
No,
don't.
but there is a reason for that now, and that's because we are where we are.
Well, of
So not
course,
to
yeah.
not to not to take away from them, because there are absolutely a ton of podcasts out there, and genuinely, because when I first went alcohol free, I was listening to OTI a great deal, but I did listen to loads of other podcasts as well. I
Mm.
listened to Sober Dave, One for the Road podcast. I listened to Big Drink Rethink, and there are literally loads of them out there. So listen, get lots of different points of view, and lots of people have come on with lots of different experiences. All you need to do is just go out and Google some, and you will find some. And equally, books wise, we've talked about the books. They're in episode 39. There's absolutely bundles of them. Some will relate to you, some are memoirs, some are more sciencey, just literally, yeah, there's so much info, and knowledge is power when it comes to
Yeah,
all of
no,
this.
no, it really is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess the last thing to say, and I kind of touched upon it when we're talking about making a list of all the benefits, is to focus on the gains,
Yep.
not what you perceive are the losses. That's really is at the heart of this, because what tends to, if you've done dry January before and you thought, well, I've done a month before and it was shit, the chances are you were focusing on what you couldn't have. You couldn't go to the
Yeah.
pub, you couldn't have a beer, you couldn't go out. It's pissing down outside. You're really bored. You're just waiting for the 1st of February where you can have a drink. And it's really miserable. The outcome is inevitable in that situation. So when you're focusing on what you can't have, if I say to you, Steve, you can't have that, or you say nobody likes
Mm,
being told no, you
mm,
immediately pull the other way, and you want that thing that you've been told that you can't have. So that isn't sustainable. Whereas when you shift your attention away from that and start noticing all of the good stuff that's happening, and one thing that I ask my coaching clients to do is just journal in the morning. Just make some notes in the morning when you first get up and you sit down, you have your coffee, maybe find 5 minutes, perhaps when you're on the toilet. I just write down, okay, how am I fit? How well did I sleep last night? Oh yeah, pretty good.
whole
How
new
much?
name for a
How
logbook, that one, isn't
logbook? Love it. How much energy have I got? Have I got any aches and pains? How focused do I feel? I just notice what's happening and just write it down and just notice it. And that really
100%.
helps.
And you know what? And that is such a great tip. But even if you're not, even if journaling is not your thing, just taking a selfie every morning. Just
Yeah,
picking
yeah,
up your
that's another good
phone
one.
and taking a selfie every single day, even if you don't share it, and keeping and looking at and look at the sparkle in your eyes, look at the puffiness around your eyes, look at how
Mm,
drawn your face is in the beginning, and actually in the glow that you get literally within days.
yeah, you do.
And you will start to see that come back through. But also, yeah, coming back to what you're saying about journaling, it's taken on a whole new thing in the last few years. It's not about, I know I've said this
Dear
before, and you said
diary.
you said I do, but it's not getting some big leather bound
Well, I
diary
did
out
have a
and
leather bound one.
and, and starting Dear Diary. It's literally emptying your brain of your thoughts and putting it down on paper. Because once you put it down on paper, you give it an identity. You give it, and it's a really, really, really therapeutic way of kind of getting everything out,
Yeah,
putting
it
it
really
down.
is.
Gratitude lists and
Gratitude,
right,
yeah,
yeah,
it's a gratitude
gratitude.
practice. I
Yeah,
must admit, if
exactly.
he'd said that to me before, I'd have been like, yeah, no thanks,
Yeah,
mate.
whatever.
But
Yeah,
honestly, it works.
yeah.
You're, I don't exactly know how to describe it, but you're kind of locking it into your
Hmm.
mind. Because if I
Yeah.
asked you, how did you feel 3 mornings ago, Steve? You're not going to remember how you
No,
felt and what's going
no.
on. It's a fleeting thought. Whereas
Yeah.
once you've written it down, then you've kind of locked it in and you've got something to look back on, and it all just makes noticing how good you're feeling so much more
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
It really,
Yeah.
really, really, that really does, and that kind
Yeah.
of combats that helps you see the comparison of what you're trading. And as
Hmm.
the days and the weeks go by, that one side of the seesaw gets enormously stacked, and the other
Yeah.
one just basically is just like nothing
Yeah,
there.
yeah, it really does. And then you start to, the longer you go, the more and more you start to see the gains, and that's when the
Mm.
momentum builds. You literally, genuinely, it's those first few days that are getting out the blocks, probably the first week or two, getting out the blocks, understanding that you're probably going to, there's going to be a few moments where it's going to be a bit of a struggle, but once you've got through it and you've realized you've got this and you can do it, and actually you start to then look at the gains, that's when the momentum can really start pushing forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after that first week, what I tend to notice with a lot of people is when they've done the first week, that really helps them actually get through the first month as well. Because once you've got that kernel of momentum that just keeps building day by day by day, that creates a fuel source that really does power you forward. Because again, when you're looking at it before you started, you're thinking, "Oh, this is going to be really hard," because you've got no momentum, you've got zero. But every day you're making the snowball bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that momentum becomes unstoppable. And that just kind of powers you forward. And I see this all the time with coaching clients. So the first month, pretty much everyone just absolutely blasts through it and has, and actually, if I they actually everyone enjoys it. Everyone really, really enjoys it. And I'm sure it's the same
Yeah.
for the people that you work with. But if you say to people in advance, you're really going to enjoy this 100 days off, they'd be like, I'm not, I'm going to hate it, but I need to do it. It's not like that. It's not something you
Yeah.
have to endure. It's something that
Yeah.
you genuinely really love just by
Yeah.
shifting your attention. What I often tend to see is after maybe a month or 6 weeks, that's when how you're feeling becomes a bit more normalized. Your watermark, your benchmark starts to rise, and that's just who you've become and who you are. And you just fit, it doesn't the novelty kind of wears off a little bit about um how you're feeling. What kind of advice would you give people once they start to get to that kind of point where it's just who they are now? What do you need to
I
do then?
think I think realistically, when we're talking about 4 to 6 weeks, what we're generally talking about there is actually a really well-known phenomenon, and that is fading effect bias.
Yeah,
When that
yeah.
starts to kick in, and fading effect bias is perfectly natural, and it's the brain's way, and we talked about this a few weeks ago with William Porter. It's the natural way that the brain will always, it's a way of getting over grief, it's a way of getting over loss, it's a way of getting over bad things in our lives. If our brain remembered everything bad that's happened to us in full technicolor for the rest of our lives, we simply wouldn't be able to focus. So what it does is it shifts those things away, we forget them quicker, and it makes the good things seem brighter, it makes the good things feel amazing. It's why women will go through childbirth and then choose to do it again. It's because all the positive parts come
No,
back.
that's fascinating
And
analogy.
it's
Like
and
that.
it's that is what happens. That's why you have a messy breakup, and then 2 or 3 weeks later you're texting them. Maybe there's alcohol involved at that point, but you know what I mean. You're remembering
Yeah,
the best
probably.
things, or how we overcome grief, how we overcome all of that. So when alcohol comes into play, it works against us because it does
Mm.
exactly the same thing. So what we start to do is we start to remember the cold beer in the hot sunny beer garden. We start to remember the laughs we had with our mates. We start to remember all the great things. What we don't remember is the anxious mornings, is the
Yeah.
feeling
Why you did
rotten.
it in the first place?
Yeah,
Why you wanted to
exactly.
stop in the first place?
Exactly. And so, yeah, I mean, and fading effect bias works in exactly the same way on the short term as well. As well, we can go through such brutal hangovers and then, suddenly go back and do it all again because we remember the best parts.
Yeah.
So it's important, that will happen, and it's important to recognize when that's going on. Because once we understand and once we see that that's going on, similarly to when we understand what cravings are and everything else, that's when we can start to name it and actually work our way through it. Because that again doesn't last forever. We've talked a lot in the community about living an alcohol-free life comes in waves, and sometimes you have shit days, and sometimes you have good days. But let's be honest, when you were drinking, you had you had shit days
Yeah.
and you had good days. So nothing changes. Life stays the same. Life tests us. Life has, and the difference is now you're starting to feel those emotions and feel the difference without alcohol, and that's a learning curve, and you keep learning every day, but it keeps giving back tenfold.
Another thing I think is extremely important when you get past the kind of 6 week, wherever it is for you, but when things start to normalize, this is where looking at the role that alcohol used to play in your life, that's now a big, empty, great, gaping hole, and having some thoughts about what you're going to do instead to fill that. Because where I see people struggle is where they just rip alcohol out of their lives. They feel amazing for a month or so, 6 weeks, and then they feel normal again. And then they start looking around thinking, what else is there? I feel a bit bored now. So being proactive about, okay, what am I going to do with my time? Because you get a lot of time back, and that's amazing.
Mm,
Getting more time. How could
mm,
you know? Well, that's brilliant. Boredom is the route to going back to drinking. I think whenever you're
yeah.
bored, you're more likely to to drink. Pull some threads of things that interest you. Sorry, I've got a really scratchy throat.
Arse.
Earth. So maybe that's going back to things that you've done in the past that you enjoyed. Maybe it might have been art when you were younger, or playing a musical instrument, or whatever it may be. But finding new things to replace the joy that you got from alcohol, because when alcohol is your only source of joy, it blocks out all of the other things that can bring you joy in life. And
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
so just trying a few things out. And it doesn't, even if it's something that you've got even a kernel of interest in, go and pursue that thing, because it might not be the thing that you end up really getting into, but it will lead you on to other things.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and that's kind of why I ended up doing coaching, basically, because I recognize that becoming an alcohol coach, having quit alcohol, seems a bit obvious, but had I not done that, I still would have found something else different that I wanted to do with my life in place of going out and drinking. But you have to go out and find that thing, unless you've already got a ready-made structure in your life. Perhaps you're somebody, and I'm speaking about someone specifically here, they know and who listens to the pod, and they'll recognize themselves when I say this. If you're somebody who's really into motorbikes and loves playing golf and doesn't really get a chance to do those two things because they're hungover, and then all of a sudden they're not hungover and they get to play loads of golf and go on their bike all the time, you've got a ready-made perfect solution. But hello to that person, he's awesome. He'll be on the pod in the future, by the way. Anyway, that to one side, to one side. Um, if you haven't got those ready-made things that you already like doing that you want to do more of, then you need to go out and find something new, because otherwise
Yeah,
you're going to get bored. That's
yeah,
really, really important, I
yeah,
think. And this is
yeah.
where people struggle with the identity bit, as they're like, what am I now without alcohol? So you have to go and find new things actively.
I would 100% agree, and you will find those things. They will come back to you, and they will surprise you. But another great tip, and I think genuinely, and this is from day one and continues, is just get outdoors.
Oh yeah,
Just
yeah.
get out. Don't go hugging trees necessarily, unless that's your thing, but get into the wonderful outdoors, whatever time the year is. It doesn't matter. Getting out, getting some air into your lungs, stepping outside with your morning coffee onto grass
Mm,
in your bare feet or whatever it happens to be, and just getting out. If you've got a dog, get out, walk the dog. If you haven't got a dog, get out and walk without a dog. Just get out into the nature and get
yeah.
out and walk around. It's
Well,
just once that clarity starts to come back, this is going to sound like the most hippiest thing I've ever said. But genuinely, once that clarity starts to come back, you gain a whole new appreciation for mornings, for sunrises, for sunsets, for being out and hearing the birds chirping. And that's genuinely, if you'd asked me that 5 years ago, I would have been the last person whose those words would ever have come out my mouth. But mornings for me now, and you can probably tell from the number of posts I stick up on Instagram of me walking in the morning, just taken on a whole new level for me, and I just love it.
Well, we obviously we touched upon it. I think it was last week where we were talking about exercise, obviously, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that exercise isn't for everybody. Well, not that it's not for everybody, but it might not be at the moment. Everybody's something that people want to do,
Mm,
but if you persevere with that whilst you're taking this first month off, it can be something that you actually do find
mm,
that you get into, even if you don't think you will. And if you're somebody who already exercises, do more of that
yeah.
because that releases endorphins, which makes you feel really good. So yes, I mean, there's a few things, but I think like I said, movement's really, really key. Whether it's getting out on a bike or walking, or that creates endorphins that makes us feel good, and that's a really strong thing to do. And if you're in your 40s and you're not really doing any exercise, you must have a sense that you need to do some, right?
Yeah,
No
yeah,
one in their
absolutely.
40s doesn't realize that I've got to do something if I want to
Yeah.
kind of live, the healthy lifespan. I do need to do some exercise. So you either do more of it if you're already doing it, or you start. So that's a great solution, I think.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So
So
yeah, no,
yeah,
no, I would completely and utterly agree with that. And exercise wise, it's we say exercise. I'm going to strip back from exercise. I'm just going to say movement. Just getting out, just getting moving, just getting your steps in, and increasing it, and just getting out, getting active, and just getting some movement. What else?
I think to make it long term sustainable, you need to surround yourself with other people that are doing it. I'm not doing this as a way of teeing up the community again, but I feel very empowered by the fact that I've met you and I met other people on the course, and I've spoken about it so many times on here, but it made such a difference to me to meet other people who got it, because it does feel so isolating
Mm,
sometimes if it's just you doing it and you're not the only person doing it. There's millions of people doing it, but you've got to go out and
literally
find
millions.
them, and you've got to go and connect with them. And it's great if you listen to audiobooks and podcasts and you hear people speak, but when you meet somebody else who gets you and who's done the same thing and is experiencing the same joys, and you get talking and you really connect, that is amazing and it feels fantastic.
Mm,
So you can't live in isolation. You need to connect with other people if you want to make it a sustainable thing and you want to make it something that works for you for a long time. And of course, we've got Lisa, who was on the podcast not long
yeah,
ago
yeah.
from the community, and I think that was the bit that she was missing. She'd done a year alcohol free, and when she first joined the community, she was talking a lot about identity, and she felt a bit lost, and she was kind of questioning herself a bit. And just being able to speak to us and speak to other people in the group, I just
Mm,
think that really helped. And again, it certainly helped me, and I know it helped you. So finding other people that get you and that are doing it, so
totally.
important.
Totally. And another one from me is stop looking. I mean, no matter whatever timeline or whatever you've set for yourself, whether it's you're going to take a month off, whether you're going to take 3 months off, whatever it happens to be, if you are taking a period of time out, stop looking at the last date of that time as being your finish line. Start looking at it as being who you might be when you get there, and then
Yeah,
making an informed choice of where you want to go.
that's reminded me actually. What's your views on counting days?
I do it. I did it, but I tell you why I did it. Well, firstly, I'd had a break about a year or so prior, and I was counting days, and I found it really, really motivational for me. But I was always still doing, I think I did about a month and a half, 2 months,
Mm,
and I found it really motivational. I think day counting can be really helpful, but not strictly just from looking at it from a ticking off, like you, you see the old films of them in prison, like notches on the how many days
yeah,
they've
yeah.
got left until they get out. That's not what day counting is about. I still have the app on my phone. I'm going to pull it up
I
while I'm
quit.
talking. Only no, I've got I'm done.
I'm done. Sorry, I'm
And
done. Yeah,
yeah, and
I've got
I'm
that
the
one.
only reason and there's your answer. It's actually gone into the cloud because I haven't looked at it for so
Yeah,
long.
that's the same as mine. Yeah, they
So
they did an
it will
update to it,
probably
didn't
come
they?
up in just a second. I looked at it with a view of that when I got to a certain day, I would reward myself. I would treat myself to a gift of some sort, or I would do something. But yes, as of today,
A new
I'm
marathon,
a new 1,826 days.
a new
But I
Iron
haven't looked at
Man.
that in such a long time. But let's just say that it also tracks the money I've saved, and I found that really motivational for me. I'm not going to say how much it is because I don't want it to be a benchmark for anybody else, and would never want anybody to benchmark their drinking against anybody else's. But suffice to say, if I was offered it as a pay rise, I would take it in a heartbeat. And that for me was really motivational. I probably did I did count days but I probably stopped looking around about 3 months. I knew when my 6 month was coming. I knew when my year was coming. I don't think I've looked at that for 6 months, maybe 8 months. And now, obviously, being 5 years in, I just glanced at
Part of
it
the
now.
reason I asked, it was a little bit of a loaded question because I wanted to share an experience that I had around day counting with somebody quite recently, where I suddenly realised that it can be very, very motivational, but it also can be very destructive. Let me just explain. So when people commit to 100 days alcohol free, which is what you and I both coach,
Hmm.
um, the day counting can be really empowering, when everything's fine. I'm on day 60, brilliant. On day 70, fantastic. Can't believe I've done 70 days. But if occasionally when something happens and maybe somebody has a slip up and then all of a sudden that streak that they've been building is gone, that can be really negative. And that can lead to people going, well, I've lost my streak
Yeah,
now,
I'm
so
back to day
so
one,
fuck it, I'm
which is
done.
not, yeah,
Well, first of all, the whole thing around back to day one is absolute
absolute
bollocks,
rubbish. Yeah.
because that's what AA do. Oh, great, you've been alcohol free for 15 years and you had one drink. Okay, you're back to day one. I mean, what? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
the same if you've taken a month off or 2 months off or however long it is. If you're committing to a break and you've done however many days, you've learned so much in that time.
Oh,
You
God, yeah.
really, really have. So this idea
Yeah.
that it's all ruined and all bets are off because you had one drink is nonsense. It's only
Mm.
ruined if you then go back to what you were doing.
Yeah.
This idea of, you know, perfection is the enemy of progress. I had to think about that
Yeah.
for a moment. And I think as humans, we're so wired to, if it's not perfect, then throw it out. It's rubbish.
Yep.
And you just getting straight back on the horse and continuing what you were doing is the most important thing. And taking that slip as data. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
totally. Totally.
I'll be honest,
All information.
I've had a couple of people within my 100-day program who have fallen off like
Yep.
once, and I've said, and they're generally quite kind of crestfallen about that. And in one person's case, it was a complete. In fact, in both cases, it was a complete accident. And I said to them, you've done 100 days. You've learned so much, and you've gone into that, and you've completely changed your mindset around alcohol. You've experienced all the benefits that you thought might happen, and you've also recognised and realised now that alcohol is giving you nothing. So, what difference does it make if you did 99 days rather than 100? The
Yep.
outcome is still exactly the same.
Yep.
So, yes, a streak is good if you're using it as fuel, but if you lose it for whatever reason, forget it. It's gone. Just doesn't matter. Carry
Yep.
on, carry on doing what you're doing. Don't
Yep.
dwell over this thing that you built up that you've lost. So I
Yep.
think I just wanted to say that about streaks because I do think they can be very, very positive, but they also can be quite
Totally
damaging.
agree. Totally agree. Where else would a 99% pass rate be
Yeah,
looked as a failure?
100%.
Yeah,
Well, not
exactly.
199, but no, but yeah, but yeah, I think that's a really, really big thing.
And I think that really kind of sums it up, really. It's just approaching everything with sheer curiosity, understanding it, knowledge, reading books, listening to podcasts, just approaching everything with curiosity and actually treat it as an experiment.
Yeah,
And at the end of
data.
that experiment, what do you want your lab book to read?
Mm.
And however you want to write your lab book, whether that happens to be through journaling, selfies, whatever, voice notes, whatever you want to do,
I mean,
then
you said it before. If you take, I think, well, let's say you're 40 and you live until you're 90. If you take 6 months off,
mm,
it's
yeah,
half a percent of the time you're on the rest of this earth.
yeah,
Why would you not want that data? Why would
yeah,
you not just want to see out of curiosity when you've got people like you and me and millions of other people saying quite how transformational and incredible
yeah,
stopping drinking is? Why would you not just want to try that
try
just
it.
for a minute, just for a blink of an eye
Yeah.
and see,
Because
knowing
like we
full well
always
that
come back
boost
to, if you don't like it,
is still
you can
there.
always go back.
Yeah, and how many people do you know that have gone back to it?
No,
Yeah.
not one.
So, who've done it in the right way. I think
Yeah,
no one goes back to it who's done it in the right way.
yeah, yeah,
The way that we've laid it out, look at all the benefits and question all the perception you have around what you think the benefits are of continuing to drink versus what the actual benefits are of not drinking. I think fundamentally, I think when you look at the idea of, okay, if I take something away from my life is going to be smaller. Whereas the reality is, as you well know, and we talk about this all the time, when you remove alcohol, life is bigger. You are gaining so much, but it doesn't make any logical sense that you would have something removed and yet you'd have more. That doesn't make any sense, but it's true.
yeah. I would agree. Yeah.
Cool.
Amazing. So
I feel like that's public service broadcasting right there.
job done.
I know I've got to thank everybody actually, because this is the third episode we've done where it's just you and me. So people must be getting pretty fed up of just as in you and me. But we're gonna have guests back next week and for the
From
next
next week.
5 or 6 weeks. I think we've got loads of people lined
Absolutely.
up. So that's gonna be
Amazing.
cool.
Good
Brilliant.
stuff.
Yeah.
Well, have a great week.
Yeah. Good to speak to you, mate. Cue the
Take
music.
care.